Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 32. In this one, we are going to plug a lot of holes in our supply chains. We need more fire ice for our graphene production, which will allow us to take a look at a recently discovered building technique, making harvester construction a little bit more bearable. There will also be a point where we need some extra copper, and our acid farm will definitely need some defenses set up, since it is currently all exposed to the dark fog. And at the very end of the video, we will spend some time setting up the new Fractionator blueprint. If you remember, the developers added a new kind of inserter recently, and that will make setting them up a whole lot easier. Before we get started, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, and clicking the like button will let me know that this video was worth making. If you want to help me make a living off this one day, please consider becoming a channel member, where you will get an early access to the videos as I make them, and for a one-time donation, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description. But enough talking, let's get into it. Okay, we have some business to take care of on Juno, so let's go there right now. And we're here. During my pre-episode tests, I discovered that we are running short on fuel cells. We've been adding so many outposts lately, all requiring their own power, that the current rate of production simply cannot keep up. We need to expand. Ideally, I would go and set up a whole planet for this, but that would only require even more power to get started, and that just might be enough to tip us over the edge. I didn't want to risk it, so I just built more on Juno, and we will migrate them over once we have the antimatter rods in full swing. I somehow doubted that adding only half a tower's worth of production would be enough, so I decided to just bite the bullet, and build more. Okay, that should take care of the shortage for now. The only real problem I can see is the deuterium, only having 2 towers making it might not be enough in the long run, so redoing the fractionators just became a relatively high priority. And now that we had a tower set up in the proper fashion, with belts going the correct way, we could blueprint it for later use. And look! I finally got around to removing the old tower factory from the old mall. There are still remnants of the old starter base littered around. For example, I know that we still have the old acid factory around somewhere, I'm just too busy doing other stuff to worry about it. Wait. Before we empty out the unnecessary stuff from our inventory, let's finish crafting some more reactors. We are still not making enough photons to truly get going with the antimatter power, so we are still reliant on fusion. About 40 more should be enough for this episode. Now that the crafting is underway, we can safely start putting stuff back into the mall's distribution system, and make some room for other items. Here, we are missing just a single harvester to get enough for 2 gas giants. I wish I noticed those extra batteries in our inventory sooner. We could have had the full set to use today. Anyways, our first big project in this video will be the harvesting of 2 more giants. We are running low on fire ice, and we need that to keep the graphene flowing. So that is what's coming next. And needless to say, setting these up is a slow and boring process, so I engaged in even faster time compression to get us through it. Now, here's a neat little quality of life addition to the game. I don't know how long this has been in the game, but I only learned about it a couple weeks ago. Once you place down a building, you don't need to wait for the construction drones to go there and build it that way. We can just hold right-click on the building, and the mecha will take care of it. That makes the construction of these harvesters almost bearable. If only blueprints worked on gas giants. Then it would be truly a breeze to do. I mean, we just got here, and we are already done. Sure, the footage was running at 8 times speed, but still. It was a lot faster than the old method of waiting for the drones to do the same thing. Anyways, since we have enough harvesters to bother going to another planet, we might as well do it. The only problem is that these gas giants are pretty far apart, so travel times will be a bit of a pain for now. Now, there is a single harvester missing. To make sure I don't leave this place like this, I made sure to add the word incomplete to the planet's name, so I'll know that it's missing something. The next order of business was the defenses on Misar 1. We have the shield emitters, and the power generators to do this, so we might as well. Only, I had a bit of a power problem while going there, so I had to wait a bit in space to recharge the engines, but we got there in the end. The whole point of this endeavor is to keep the dark fog off this planet, so we will also need to get rid of them while we're here. Sadly, I didn't bring enough foundations with me to plug the holes, so they will have to stay for now. But, once we are done with the shield coverage, we can target the relay hubs above the bases, making sure they cannot rebuild anymore. It seems the original acid outpost is right where we need the last emitter to go. Oh well, I'm sure we can make room for it somehow. Well, this is another section of the video where we do something boring and tedious. We need to place a lot of long-range power poles, so if you'll excuse me, I'll enable fast forwarding once more. I made sure to leave a signal tower behind while we take care of the emitters, so we can prevent the enemy from rebuilding. And placing the missing emitter was easier than expected. We just needed to move a couple belts to make room. And that about does it. The emitters are charging, it's only a matter of time before the planet is protected. And now that we have fusion reactors in place, we can safely connect the towers up to the power network. This will allow us to use the local logistics vessels to increase the overall throughput of the acid deliveries, which should help with the titanium alloy factories. And this is where we boot the dark fog off this planet once and for all. We tell the missile launchers to start targeting upper atmosphere objects. That just means the relay stations. Once those are gone, the enemy can no longer rebuild the existing bases, and the shields will prevent any more from landing. And that's it. We have 3 holes left on the planet, which we will plug once I get around to it, but the planet itself is completely safe. And the best of all, destroying those relay stations didn't generate enough threat from the hive to trigger an attack. We can safely expand the acid production whenever the need arises. After making sure the power generation is capable of keeping this place going, we are ready to go back to Juno, and start going for the next task. The network is struggling a bit, but once the emitters and the towers are fully charged, I'm sure things will be a lot more stable. The processor planet is doing an admirable job, but it is lacking some circuit boards. We will definitely need to take care of that soon to keep it going. Before we go home, I also wanted to check on the graphene planet, just to make sure we have enough fire ice, and we can keep the hydrogen storages as empty as possible, so we don't clog up the system. Well, it's not the best. The fire ice deliveries are a bit slow due to the distances to the gas giants, and there is a bit too much hydrogen stuck in the system for my liking, but it's still going, so that's okay for now. Just to help with the fire ice throughput, I decided to add a couple more towers. Having more production capacity will help spread the weight a bit, giving each tower more time to get the resources they need. Oh, right. Apart from the new inserters, the developers also added a new kind of defense building, so I got the research going on those. I really wish I also got started on the inserter line as well. I forgot that it also needs some upgrades, and I will only realize that once the new Fractionators are up and running. Well, with the extra processor production, we need more circuit boards. I wasn't really ready to start setting up a whole new planet just yet, so for now, we will simply plop down a couple extra towers on Juno. There was a distinct lack of copper plates coming in. That made it obvious what our next goal needs to be. But before I left, I wanted to see how the sphere was progressing. It is really coming together. We can even make out the general shape of the layers by now, although they are overlapping a little bit, so they don't really show the proper rotation just yet. Now, before we go and set up the extra copper mining, we should take care of the graphene labs. And we're off to Misar. As it happens, the planet we use to get our acid also has a pretty generous 20 million copper scattered about the surface, and since that place is already protected, we might as well use it. Well, damn. I forgot to bring the most important thing, the actual miners. We only have 3 of them ready to go. No matter, these patches are pretty big, and if we boost the extraction to 300%, we should still get enough coming out to make this trip worthwhile. With the extraction taken care of, we need the tower to actually ship them back to Vulcan. We might as well make it future-proof, and place 3 of them, not just 1. Instead of waiting for the warper deliveries to arrive, we can pick some up from the already existing towers, and spread them around. That should help get the copper shipments going a bit faster. And just to further help the planet keep running, we can finish the circle of fusion reactors at the North Pole. What we need next is some extra smelting arrays on Vulcan. It's all good that we increase the raw copper, but it also needs refining. It seems we are out of construction rockets. The increased launch capacity caught up with the production, so we should go and check what's the current bottleneck. It seems it's the processors. And that was struggling because of the lack of copper most likely. It will take some time for the new production to trickle down to the more advanced component factories, so we need to give it some time. Just to do a bit of a health checkup on the factory, I decided to take a bit of time, and look at the different towers along the equator. As long as we had a good amount of raw components in the storages, we can rest easy. I also made sure to set the superfluous towers to accept minimal thresholds for deliveries, so they can empty out completely. That's why some of the towers were almost entirely dry, those are just preparing for demolition. Well, it seems we have two big shortages at the moment. Deuterium, and titanium alloys. I suppose we could do something about one of them today. The other one will have to wait. And since I already told you what the end of this episode is about, you know what's coming. Okay. Time to start crafting some fractionators. 100 should be plenty enough to set up the new blueprint. There. 100 fractionators coming up. Oh geez. Almost forgot the most important thing. The new inserters. We cannot do the new setup without those. Thankfully, they are pretty simple, only need some blue magnets and processors. Should be a pretty fast addition to them all. It would also help if we place the assembler next to the inserter line, not the belts. Now that we have so many different boxes lying around, it's incredibly easy to just copy-paste the distributors from a box that needs the same component. And there. We now have stacker inserters being made. We just add them to the inventory logistics, and wait to get at least 80 of them ready to go. Let's go for 100, just to be sure. The old Fractionator blueprint had 80 of them, so let's go for that number once more. Normally, I would have stopped the recording here. I was well and truly over the time limit at this point, but I also remembered that I had a few moments that I wanted to speed up, like the gas harvesters, or the power poles for the shield emitters, so I risked going long on this one. I think I managed to strike a decent balance this time around. So, this is what we try to replace today. We should start with a nice clean canvas, so we need to move over a bit. The local power grid is a bit overloaded. And we don't have enough reactors to really make it balanced again. This will definitely have an impact on the overall efficiency, but we can fix that later. What we are focusing on right now is the new Fractionator tower. Power can come later. Remember how we needed an elaborate system of belt splitters and stackers to get a constant flow of fully stacked hydrogen for the fractionators? All that can now be achieved with a simple inserter, who can place single units of hydrogen on top of already existing stacks, making the job incredibly easy. It is truly a game changer. We only need to research the necessary upgrades for them, and they will be stacking the raw hydrogen into 4 levels high piles, making the efficiency of our fractionators as high as physically possible. Now, I can already see a potential upgrade we can introduce into the system. As you know, fractionators are operating with a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of input and output. We get 1 deuterium for 1 hydrogen. With this setup, we are using a single line of hydrogen to 2 separate lines going back with the deuterium. We are lowering the overall efficiency by not using the return lines to the same extent as the supply belts. So I will definitely tinker with the design in the upcoming episode. We are already done with the first stacker research, so they are now outputting a double stacked line of hydrogen onto the mini loops. The fractionators are already operating at an increased efficiency rating, and it's only going to get better from here. Anyways, I think this is where we will leave it for today. We are already over the time limit for the episodes, even with the copious amount of fast forwarding we did, so it's time to start talking about what's coming next. I have 2 things in mind. One is of course the improvements I just mentioned for the fractionators. We can safely merge the output belts for 2 columns, so we get the same amount of deuterium going back to the tower as the number of hydrogen coming out. This will also allow us to place 2 more fractionator columns on 1 tower, so we might not need to use this weird shape anymore. The other thing we can do will be the expansion of the titanium alloy production. It's been pretty inconsistent, we've been using a single half tower to make them, so it's time we did more. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, and clicking the like button will also help letting me know that the video was worth making. If you would like to help me make a living off this one day, please consider becoming a channel member, where you will get an early access to the videos as I make them. And if you want to give a one-time donation, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description. Thank you for your support, and I will see you in the next one.